It is Tuesday, October 17th. We are fresh off of college football week 7, looking forward into college football week 8. We got a couple of massive games with huge implications that we're getting ready to talk about. But before we do that, Seth, how we doing?
Doing great. Kind of like you said, kind of getting to those games now where they mean more and a loss can devastate a season. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, me too. There's not a whole lot of massive games on the slate this week, but again, the ones that are pretty big. So we got a couple big games that we want to break down. If you don't know who we are Statletics. We love football. We love breaking down the big games, throwing some money on them, and we dabble in a little bit of analytics here and there. All right. Jumping straight into the big slate, we all know the first game that we need to discuss. Big noon kickoff. Penn State goes to Ohio State. Ohio State is 4.5-point home favorites. This rivalry does not get as much attention as Ohio State's annual game with Michigan. However, it should almost be just as important this year. The winner gets a head start in a heated Big Ten scramble. Beyond that, the winner of this game will be in the driver's seat for a college football playoff berth. The loser won't be mathematically eliminated from either, but certainly will have a hard path that includes Michigan later in the stretch. Penn State hasn't beaten the Buckeyes since 2016, hasn't won in Columbus since 2011. This will also be Penn State's first real test after it won each of its first 6 games by an average of 36.3 points. We will see what Drew Aller is really made of. Again, Ohio State, 4.5-point home favorites. If we look at the splits, 74% of the bets are on Penn State. 91% of the money is on Penn State.
Ooh,
pretty crazy splits. Public's coming in heavy on Penn State to cover. Seth,
yes.
who do you like in this game and why?
So that just made me a little happy. I like Ohio State here. Penn State under James Franklin has not been known to get the big game done when they need it ever since he's been here. I believe they're like 1-11 on the road against ranked opponents. Ohio State's built for this. These are the games that they play every year. If it's not Michigan, I kind of trust them to win. I like Ohio State here. I think they win and cover, and I think they keep it going and have that big showdown with Michigan late in the season.
Yeah, this one's interesting for me because a couple of different things. One thing that really sticks out to me is the lower point total in this game. It's right around 47 and a half on some books. So, and that's kind of something that we expect. You know, a lot of people, if you don't really pay attention with the Big Ten, if you don't really watch either of these teams, for one, this is Ryan Day's best defensive unit that he's had in his head coaching tenure at Ohio State. And consequently, I think this can be said the same for James Franklin at Penn State. This is the best defensive unit he has had as head coach at Penn State. So this is actually going to be a defensive bout, if I had to guess. Now, certainly both offenses have the ability to score, but it's really the defenses that are really going to carry the weight. We look at it, Penn State first overall in the nation in overall success rate allowed on the defensive side of the ball. Ohio State 29th, Penn State 60th overall in allowing explosive plays, whereas Ohio State is 5th overall. So I think that's kind of something that Ohio State can exploit. If they can get Marvin Harrison on the deep balls, you really get that offense going and try and chuck it deep. Or break one loose. I think the explosiveness of Ohio State's offense can really take advantage of Penn State's, maybe catch them once. That's really all they need. But on the other hand, Penn State, first overall, I mentioned they were first overall in overall success rate, and here's why. They're first overall in overall passing success rate allowed, where they're 6.5, tied at 6th in rushing success rate. So it's going to be an interesting bout here. Again, we have two quarterbacks who this is really their first year in which they get a full go at it. You know, Kyle McCord, this is his first year as a starter. Drew Aller is a true freshman. Both are playing good football, you know, leading the way in the Big Ten for some of these offensive metrics. Penn State 15th overall in the nation in offensive success rate. Ohio State 26th overall. However, Penn State's not that explosive. They're actually near dead last in FBS in total overall explosive plays. So they certainly can get it done. They are certainly efficient and get it done on the ground and in the air, but they really lack some explosive ability. So we'll see if that kind of hinders them a little bit. My model projections, they really don't have anything. It's right on the nose with the Vegas spread. It's 4.8. And obviously Vegas right now is 4.5. So that doesn't really tell us anything. My total is right around 50 rather than 47, but I kind of like the under here as well. I'm going to fade the public here, and I'll take you in a beer bet right now.
Let's do it.
Put it on the board.
Yeah.
Put it on the board. So I also think you can find this pick at 3.5 in some places. So, just be weary on which side you want to bet. If you are wanting to take Ohio State, I think you can get this line steamed down to 3.5 and maybe 3 just because of the way the public money is looking right now. But, pick your side, whichever one you like, and take the under. I think that's what's going to happen in this game. It certainly seems that is what's most likely. All right. Biggest game of the week, big noon kickoff. Got that out of the way. It's going to be a fun one.
Yes, sir.
If you're watching this video on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe and then comment your favorite picks. Make sure to leave that for us. Let us know what you're cooking up in the books this week. We love scanning the crowd for that information. It's always fun seeing certain bets that other people have that maybe we missed. Obviously everybody has their own team. They may know their own team a little bit better. So love that information. But again, like, subscribe, and comment those picks for us. Let us know what we got right. Let us know what we got wrong. Moving on. Second biggest game of the week. It's the third Saturday in October, baby. Tennessee goes to Alabama. This is a top 20 matchup as Alabama's ranked number 11, Tennessee number 17. The third Saturday in October finally has some life again. Alabama has dominated the modern history of this series, ripping off 15 straight wins against the Vols between 2007 and 2015. 13 of those victories were decided by at least 2 scores. Tennessee made things a lot more interesting last year, downing Alabama 52-49 in an absolute thriller on a last-minute field goal. We saw the field rush after that. I think that's one that a lot of people will remember for a long time. I don't expect that many points in this season's installment by any means, as both offenses are nowhere near a shell version of what the offenses were last year. Tennessee's fresh off of a 20-13 win against Texas A&M, in which it only scored 1 offensive touchdown, and that was on the ground. Or they dominated on the ground, but really lacked in the passing game. Texas A&M scored, Alabama has exceeded the 30-point mark just once this entire year. We do see Jalen Milroe kind of developing a little bit. They're coming together and looking more like a complete offensive unit, but they are 107th overall in pressure rate allowed on the quarterback. So their offensive line is not like this beefy unit that Alabama teams are used to having. Their defense is also really, really solid, but again, it's not what Alabama is used to. This should be a fun one. Alabama's coming off hot with a 9-point favorite at home in T-Town, 8.5 on some books. So definitely a 2-possession spread right here. Seth, who do you like in this game and why?
I think you'll be happy to hear. I like Tennessee here. Kind of like you said, the big thing is the Alabama offense has not been crazy impressive to me this year. And Tennessee definitely took a step back from last year's team, but spreads like this, when they're 9-10, when they're kind of up in that range, and you haven't seen an offense that's fully convincing yet, I tend to side with the underdog and take the points. I don't think I could risk taking Bama with. I just don't see them winning by 10. I could see this being a low scoring, kind of like you said. I could see it being a 24-21 Alabama win. I think Alabama wins outright. Being at home, especially feeling that sting from last year, that Tennessee-Alabama game last year was easily one of the best games in college football. I think it has the implications to do that again, but I do think it will be more low scoring this go around. And I do think Bama wins outright by 3, but give me Tennessee +9.
That's good to hear. So, Seth, what he's getting at, if you haven't watched us before and you don't know who we are, I am in fact a double Tennessee grad. So my opinion, you can take it, you can throw it away if you want. I'm just letting you know in advance, I'm a little biased towards the Vols, so I won't really give like an official pick here. Obviously, I'm going to go with the Vols. I've already put my mortgage on it, so
Nice.
we'll just leave that there. But I do want to dive into some of the numbers and make sure everybody is as informed as possible. I've mentioned it before. Joe Milton is struggling, or he is not doing well. It's almost like Josh Heupel does not trust him in this offense. However, on the flip side, one thing that is really, really positive for the Vols is the run game. They are leading the league and dominating teams on the ground. They are tied for 5th overall in the nation in rushing success rate in all of FBS. They are top 10 in FBS and rushing yards per attempt at 5.88. They are dominating teams left and right. So that bodes well for the Vols. Now, what doesn't bode well is Alabama. They aren't that great against the pass, but they're solid against the run. They're 9th overall in rushing success rate allowed on the defensive side of the ball. Again, their defensive unit is certainly solid, really good at success rate allowed. They limit the success on both the ground and the air. However, they do have a leaky secondary, and they're 107th in FBS in explosive plays allowed. So if Tennessee can connect on just 1 or 2 explosive plays, especially in the secondary, if Joe Milton can just connect on one of those deep balls, he missed 5 last week. So that's something that if he can clean up and hit 2, then Tennessee is looking a lot different as an offensive unit right here. So that's really the key to success. I think that Alabama will do a good job of, I don't think they'll contain the run game necessarily, but I think that they'll limit it more than teams have had the ability to this season for Tennessee. So if this game will hinge on if you think Joe Milton and the Tennessee Vols can get it done through the air, and if you think they can, they absolutely can and will cover. Now, you turn to the flip side, Alabama and their offense struggled mightily at the beginning of the season, but they've slowly put it together. They're 9th overall in total power success. So again, they go big on big and they win up front. That's pretty much how it goes. They're not very explosive. We saw a couple deep balls hit by Jalen Milroe last week against Arkansas. That bumped up their success. They're top 15 right now in the nation in terms of passing explosiveness, I think because of those. Before they were not in the top 30. Middle of the road in terms of rushing success rate. And they do, again, we saw some explosive plays last week that really bumped up those metrics. They're 69th overall in the nation in overall offensive success rate. Again, middle of the road. You don't really know what to expect. The key here will be Tennessee, their defensive line, is dominating. If they can keep Jalen Milroe in the pocket, if they can force Jalen Milroe to try and beat Tennessee with his arm, I think Tennessee covers pretty handily. Now, the question is, can they do that? We'll see. But again, that's my take. I think that this really underrated defensive line for Tennessee is going to collapse the pocket as much as they can against Milroe, force him to try and throw the ball rather than scramble around and beat us with his legs, and we'll go from there. If he beats us with his arm, so be it. I think that's something that Tennessee is willing to accept if Jalen Milroe comes out and beats us with his arm. So that's the key to success here. But those are the numbers. That's the information. Again, that's that. Can't lay anything official. Should be a fun one, though. Should be a fun one.
All right, but what's your pick? Who you got?
Oh, I'm taking the Vols, man.
Okay, just making sure.
I think the Vols win. I think they win by 7. I think they're going to hit 17 deep balls. It's going to be awesome.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. It's either that's going to happen or we get beat by 30 and Jalen Milroe has 200 rushing yards on the ground. I swear.
Yeah.
I swear.
It'll be interesting.
So, all right. Moving on. We got another one. ACC marquee matchup. This one's going to be interesting due to some key injury going on. Duke, number 16th overall in the nation, AP ranked, goes to number 4, Florida State. Florida State is 14.5-point home favorites against Duke. This may they may seem a little undervalued in this matchup, but the reason the line is so big is because Riley Leonard's status is in question. He injured his ankle 2 weeks ago against Notre Dame and missed the 24-3 win against NC State. Mike Elko is optimistic that Leonard's long-term outlook, though it's too early to tell this week, we will know later in the week if he will play or not against Florida State. Without Leonard, Duke completed just 4 passes, none in the second half against the Wolfpack. Although we know the Wolfpack historically in the past couple of years have had an elite defense, so kind of a catch-all there. But they did have a strong rushing attack and a defense that didn't allow a score after the first quarter, carried the shorthanded Blue Devils to a win. That said, Duke cannot afford to be one-dimensional against this Florida State team. The Seminoles have the ACC's second best scoring defense behind Duke, allowing 18.3 points per game. Now, again, key matchup here in the ACC. Florida State, we've seen them kind of keep it close with some teams that they really shouldn't have kept it close with. Most notably, Boston College a couple weeks ago. It looks like Boston College was about to win that game until Florida State called a break. But other than that, Florida State's kind of come out and, handily beat some teams. So this is going to be an interesting one. I certainly think Mike Elko is going to be able to get his team up. And the question that we have to face right now is, do we think Riley Leonard's going to play? And if not, do we still think that 14.5 points might be a little bit too much of a cushion here? Who do you like in this game and why?
I like Florida State regardless of whether he plays or not. I think Florida State's been on a roll. I like their offense. Mike Norvell's my guy as a Memphis Tiger fan. I have kind of adopted Florida State as my second team, seeing him flourish in the Power 5 and seeing what he's done with Florida State. As someone who has watched a lot of Florida State this season, I think that they have one of the best offenses in the country. I think that they have the capability of going undefeated and being in the playoffs, and I think this is just another game in their way this season that they will blow past Duke and have no issues. That's what I'm going to say.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Duke is not a threat.
Let's dive into some numbers, and then I'll return back to that.
I feel like a beer bet might be coming.
I can't let that go. All right, 14.5 point spread right now. Duke, 58% of the tickets are on Duke. 89% of the handle is on Duke.
Good.
A lot of people like them to cover that big spread. Let's kind of dive into the numbers a little bit. Florida State, really solid on the offensive side of the ball. They're second overall in the nation in terms of explosive plays on the offensive side. They're fifth overall in power success, 25th overall in passing explosiveness, and fourth overall in rushing explosiveness, with a grand total of 32 overall in the nation in rushing or overall success rate. Duke, on the other side, they're actually 48th in the nation in overall success rate on the offensive side of the ball. I think some of those numbers are skewed due to Riley Leonard being out. Passing success rate, though, really solid. 19th overall in the nation, actually. I think their rushing success rate is 70th overall in the nation. It drives that number back down. So their passing game, phenomenal, especially for an ACC team. Oops. But here's the thing. Florida State, their defense is really, really good at handling the passing game. They are 9th overall in passing success rate allowed, but they're 72nd overall in the nation in terms of passing explosiveness allowed. So if Duke can really take advantage and chuck it downfield, connect on a few deep balls, I know we mentioned that, but I think that they can keep this close. And so the status of the Duke's starting quarterback will be key to this game. And I think I'm going to try and get some good closing line value, and I will put myself up there. I will take this as a beer bet. I think Duke, in a key ACC matchup, can keep this one close. I love Mike Elko. I love what he's doing. Don't get me wrong. Florida State is 100% a college football playoff contender. I will not question that. They have the team. They have the coaching staff. They have the roster makeup of what you need for a playoff contender. But 14.5 points, that's too many points for this Duke team, who I definitely think their starting quarterback is going to play. He's not missing this game. No chance. This is what dreams are made of, man. This
Yeah.
is what you grow up wanting. So
Yeah,
14
it is.
points. I think they at least backdoor cover this.
Yeah,
I
with
think
that being said, Florida State wins by 24. It's
okay.
it's what dreams are made of, going to Florida State and losing by 24.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know.
All right,
This
well,
is the same Duke team that took it to Clemson. I know it was at Duke. That was a home game for Duke, but
lots
Clemson kept it
changed.
close. Clemson kept it close. I know. I broke my own rule there, and I used the transitive property on a team, so
Yeah.
I redact everything I just said. Don't listen to me, guys. I hate people that use the transitive property. If that's the case, that means Pittsburgh is better than Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
So, fun fact. All right. Hey, moving on. We got another. This is our second to last big game breakdown. Utah goes to USC. USC just got embarrassed on live television by Notre Dame last week. They are reeling in after a 48-20 loss against their rival. Reigning Heisman Trophy winner Caleb Williams threw 3 interceptions, took 6 sacks as their front got battered by the Fighting Irish. USC has a chance to turn around and play the Pac-12's most physical defense, prove their dominance on the offensive side of the ball. Not sure if that'll happen. We'll see. We got to break it down here a little bit. The Utes lead the league in total defense, 277 yards per game allowed, rushing defense, 66 yards per game allowed, and scoring defense, 12.2 points per game. They've allowed just one quarterback to throw for at least 250 yards. Utah has also had USC's number last year as they beat the Trojans in the Pac-12 championship. Of course, all eyes are on Utah's overall health. Quarterback Cam Rising and top offensive option Brant Kuith have yet to play this season, and as they recover from severe knee injuries, we will see what their status is going into this game, but we're just going to assume that Utah will be going for it as they have been.
Mm-hmm.
USC, 7-point home favorites. Utah, solid defense we just talked about. Who do you like in this matchup to cover, and why?
Well, I like Utah. I think obviously, like you said, their defensive metrics speak for themselves. They kind of make games gross. They make the other team grind it out. If you're going to win, you could win by scoring 14 points playing this Utah team. The problem is scoring 14 points is very difficult against this Utah team. And with USC lately, like you said, they got embarrassed by Notre Dame. That Arizona game was kind of embarrassing. Colorado, they had a late collapse. I mean, these are 3 weeks in a row of Caleb Williams and USC kind of just crapping their pants late down the stretch. And with Notre Dame, they did it all game. With that being said, I feel like this makes the most sense to take USC -7. With that being said,
I agree. 100%. I actually wrote down in my notes, like, I think this is going to be the one that we may beer bet, just because I know you've been on Utah in the past. You've actually beaten me in a Utah beer bet earlier in the year. And so this one, I was like, I'm sure we might disagree on this one. So that's funny. Looking at the betting splits, 62% of the total bets are on USC, 70% of the handle is on USC. That doesn't really scare me away from this. No. The number's been fluctuating here and there. I think you can actually get it at 6.5 on some books. Mm-hmm. I think I like that number, man. I think I like taking USC 6.5 at home, coming off this embarrassing loss. They still have a spot to play for in the Pac-12 championship. They still have a spot to contend for in the college football playoff. And of course, Caleb Williams has a back-to-back Heisman spot to contend for as well. Again, the Vegas spread 6.5. My model has it right around 13, believe it or not. So
interesting.
I will say it does love the USC offense. Like, really loves them. I don't know why. It's almost a problem. One thing I've noticed is there are a few teams where the model just loves, and understandably so, but it's sometimes like you have really good efficient metrics, but you don't capitalize in the red zone or something like that. And or you turn the ball over in key moments that really don't translate into total points. Whereas in the model, it does translate into points. So if that makes sense, I think that's what the model's seeing, and it's translating those opportunities into points rather than accounting for those key turnovers and whatnot. We do post all of our model projections. You can find them on the Twitter right here. It's just at Statletics_. We've had back-to-back-to-back weeks where the model has hit over 60% on that 60% hit rate tear in college football. So some great stuff. Don't miss out on it. We post them all there every Thursday, give or take. So you can find those on the Twitter account later this week. Looking at the comparison on the offensive side of the ball, USC hands down has the better offense. I'm not telling you, if you're watching this, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Utah's offense is abysmal right now. They have some good power success. They have some good rushing explosiveness on the ground, but that's really all they have. With the lack of Cam Rising running the offense, they have no passing game. And I really think that bodes well for USC, because USC, we know their defense sucks. We know it. Again, that's nothing new. But I think that Utah, again, they're second overall in success rate allowed on the defensive side of the unit. That's going to be the key component. They're second overall in passing success rate allowed. If they are going to do it, they're going to have to sell it to stop Caleb Williams. But the thing is that USC can run the ball almost as well as they can pass the ball. That's something that goes unnoticed that a lot of people don't watch. Is USC is really, really solid on the ground. They're 24th overall in the nation in rushing success rate, 17th overall in rushing explosiveness. So I think either which way, whatever Utah tries to step up and do to stop this USC team, they're just going to do the opposite and they're going to dominate. So give me USC in the points at home.
I like that. I like it.
All right. I had to throw this one in here.
Okay.
Ole Miss, 6-point road favorites going to Auburn. Auburn just got embarrassed by LSU. A lot of people actually picked Auburn and Hugh Freeze to cover the 11 points against LSU at home last week. Tough outing for them. Not what we expected whatsoever. But Ole Miss, they're number 13th overall in the league in AP poll rating. They're catching 6 points on the road. They're actually 5.5, 6.5 on some books. This is actually the most volatile line that I've found. Some books are pricing Ole Miss at 5.5. Some books are pricing them at a full touchdown. So again, most volatile line that I have seen on the books today. This is also a fun, interesting game because I want you guys to remember the drama of last year. Lane Kiffin was supposedly number one on Auburn's hit list when looking for a new coach. And I think Lane Kiffin was actually ready to leave Ole Miss.
I forgot about that.
To go to Auburn right before they said Hugh Freeze is coming in to be the new coach. And I think Lane Kiffin was pissed. There was something weird that really went down last year later in the season. And I think Lane Kiffin he had his bags packed and everything. Yeah. And Auburn announced Hugh Freeze. So this is kind of a revenge game to some capacity for Lane Kiffin. Plus, a lot riding on the SEC West title. If he can clear Auburn, push him out of the way, I think this will be a good momentum gaining game for Lane Kiffin and the Rebels. But man, going to Jordan-Hare Stadium, playing Hugh Freeze, who has a very mysterious Auburn Tigers team that could, they can hang with Georgia, but they get their ass beat by LSU. So anything is possible in this game. And this is going to be a house of cards type thing. So I am not sure what to think of this game whatsoever. Seth, who do you like in this game and why?
Throwing me on the spot. I don't know. It's kind of like what you said. It depends on what Auburn team's going to show up, because you watch the Auburn-Georgia game, and Auburn looks like a top 25 team, and then you watch any other game, and they look like the winless SEC team that they are. So I think a big factor of this game is going to be on the shoulders of Auburn, whether they want to show up and compete or whether they don't. Ole Miss, I think they've been pretty consistent. They play the bad teams. They beat them bad. They competed with Alabama. It was a low-scoring game. I know they lost by 14, but it wasn't horrible. Didn't get blown out. They took it to LSU and beat them in a wild game. The Arkansas game, not too impressive. This one is kind of due for a roller coaster, if you ask me. I don't really know what's going to happen. I'm not going to lay an official pick, I'll tell you that. But I do think it's funny you brought that up. I completely forgot about that whole Lane Kiffin scenario. I remember on Twitter, people were saying Lane Kiffin is the official head coach of Auburn.
Yep.
I completely forgot about that.
Yep.
So now that you bring that back up, I'm leaning Ole Miss because Lane Kiffin. I don't think he's a very forgiving person. I think he's a vengeful person. So I think he's going to do whatever it takes to have them run all over Auburn. So I'm going to lean Ole Miss, but I am not giving out an official pick.
Dude holds grudges like it's his job.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it's his job. So I agree with you. I actually really like Ole Miss. I'm going to catch him 5.5. Where we see him on some books. This number is undoubtedly going to steam up. I'm a little worried by the public betting splits. 91% of the total tickets are on Ole Miss. 90% of the handles on Ole Miss. That doesn't really scare me though. To be honest with you, I think seeing such a heavy, like if the money was 90% and the tickets were like 60%, that's what scares me. Where you see really big money coming on Ole Miss, and the majority is not entirely all on Ole Miss, but aside from that, I do like catching Ole Miss 5.5 points at Auburn. I know that Auburn is one of the most underrated places to play in the SEC. It's really a tough environment for anybody, especially an SEC West foe. But my model has Ole Miss right at 5. But again, I think this is a revenge game for Lane Kiffin to come in here and just beat the hell out of Auburn. I think he's going to come in with a bit vengeful and a bit spiteful. And what we know is that Ole Miss will find success on the offensive side of the ball. They are 5th overall in overall explosive plays on the offensive side of the ball, 16th overall in passing explosiveness, 33rd overall in rushing explosiveness. Again, they're all in the green on the success rate side of the ball, top 30 in just about every category. Auburn, not so much. The one thing they do well is rush the ball, but this Ole Miss defense is quite underrated on the defensive side of the ball. They're actually pretty solid at limiting the explosive plays in the back, and they're really good at stopping the run game. Really good, not great, but still really good. They're definitely top half in FBS and all sorts of rushing defensive metrics. So I think Ole Miss is going to do a good job on the defensive side of the ball. I think their defense is actually going to win them this game. And of course, the Lane Kiffin narrative coming in to beat Auburn's ass. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, man. Hey, that wraps it up for the big game breakdowns. You got any more picks you want to lay out before I go to the model picks?
No, I think we covered them. I think that's about it. I think I'm good.
All right, I got a few model picks for you guys I want to lay out. There's some big discrepancy between the model and the spread here. Mizzou at home versus South Carolina. I like Mizzou 6.5. Model has them right around 12, so give me Mizzou. Miami plus 3.5 at home versus Clemson. Model actually has this game as a pick'em, but it's a home game. Miami, I think they can still get it together and beat Clemson on the road or at home. Give me Miami plus the points. Wake Forest at home versus Pitt, -2. This is a recency bias game with Pitt and the game that they just had against Louisville. Wake Forest, the model likes Wake Forest by 6 at home versus Pitt, so I'm taking that one. Michigan, -24 against Michigan State. Michigan State's in shambles right now. The model has it about a 30-point win, so I think that Michigan won't let up in the fourth quarter. I think there's going to be a steamroll, no doubt about it. Wisconsin at Illinois. Wisconsin -2. I like this Wisconsin team. The model likes this Wisconsin team. It should be priced at Wisconsin -5 here in this game. TCU +7. Model really likes TCU +7 in this conference game here. And then last but not least, Arizona State +27 at Washington. Washington's one of the best teams in the league, but Arizona State will find some success in the air, no doubt. I think 27 is a little too cushiony. The model has it around Arizona +20. So those are the model picks. Those are big game breakdowns, guys. We appreciate you being here. We will be back here next week for College Football Week. Talk to you guys later.